are listening to KELP El Paso. Feed your mind, feed your soul at 1590 AM, 95.9 FM. Streaming worldwide at KELPradio.com.
915 Talk is a production of Desert Voice Media. You can visit desertvoice.media to learn more.
915 TALK.
The world is looking at El Paso.
What will we say to the world? From the KELP studio in El Paso, this is 915 Talk.
And now your host.
Good afternoon, beautiful citizens of the borderland. This is 915 Talk, and I am your host, Andy Frecka. Today we are broadcasting from the heart of the world's largest borderplex. We're here at the KELP studio in El Paso, and today's a special day because we have Mac Daddy Del Norte on the board. Mac Daddy, how you doing this afternoon?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about yourself, Andy?
I must once again confess to our audience that my vocabulary is painfully poverty-stricken to describe the wonder and joy of this educational journey that we have embarked upon each and every weekday afternoon as we learn to love our city, love our neighbors, and give God all the glory.
Oh, wow. That sounds very deep.
Yeah, it is deep. I'm now in El Paso for in the spring it's going to be 4 years.
Oh, wow, already?
4 years. I know.
Oh my goodness.
So I can't say I'm new to El Paso anymore.
Yeah.
But and I must say that this program has helped me to love the city more.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a minute to get used to.
I bet.
But it did. But I love it now.
Nice.
El Paso's great.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. Mac Daddy. And today's very special. Do you know why it's special?
Because we have a special guest in the house.
Well, that and we have air in our lungs and the ability to serve the Lord yet another day.
Yeah.
But we do have a special guest. Do you know
Definitely.
why he's special?
Yes, because he is the unique expression of an...
Wait, what is happening?
Getting interrupted.
What? Is this breaking news?
Breaking news,
Breaking
Andy.
news.
Yeah.
What is the breaking news?
Breaking worldwide news. You can now feed your mind, feed your soul with great Christian teaching and talk on Alexa. That's right. All you have to say is, "Hey Alexa, play KELP radio," and boom, instant Christian teaching, talk, and truth 24/7.
Oh, instant truth and talk 24/7.
24/7.
Through the Alexa.
Yes.
Oh, by Amazon. The
Amazon.
smart device.
The smart home device.
Yeah,
yes.
Because not everyone has a radio in their home anymore, Mac Daddy.
That is right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. But you know what?
Confessions of a
I was
Christian radio
actually.
producer.
I was, but then somebody was giving out like free vinyls here at the radio station.
We were,
and
we still have a Sheila Walsh.
And I ended up having to go buy a radio /vinyl /Bluetooth /everything device. So now I have a radio at home.
Oh, you do have a radio at home,
but it's all like
so
all
like when you get
one.
home, you turn on 1590 AM.
Sometimes
you're
yes.
like kids gather around
to make sure that we're still on the air.
Yeah.
Before you call, Mac Daddy, we're off the air.
Yeah, no, we've been on the air. We've been working hard.
Yeah,
we have a stable signal now. It's a big deal.
Thank the Lord.
It's been months of work, but we're there.
Definitely.
But by the grace of God, by the prayer of our faithful listeners, we have changed out the guts and the brains of the station, and we have a stable signal. It's really good.
Definitely.
But that's not what we're going to talk about today, Mac Daddy Del Norte. We do have a special guest. Do you know why they're special?
Yes. He is the unique expression of an endlessly creative God.
Oh, that is true. He is the unique expression of an endlessly creative God. Also, he is the pastor of Jesus Chapel.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of Jesus Chapel?
I have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's over on El Paso's west side.
Uh-huh.
Kind of the bougie part of town.
I'm
a central El Paso kind of guy. I'm real El Paso.
Nice.
The people over there. That's high level El Paso. West side. Oh, also he was a missionary.
Oh.
In India.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, India. Yeah.
Is that where you met him?
No.
No. I know you were in India.
Yeah, I've been to India a few times.
You were a missionary too.
Yeah,
so.
I was a missionary, and I went to India, but I did not see him when I was there. Among the 1,300,000,000 people or whatever it is.
And you usually see the other white guy.
Yeah. That's right.
It's hard to miss.
Yeah. According to social media, he loves Julie and coffee.
Those are two things I love.
Yeah. I think that's all we need to know about him. So without further ado, let's give a very warm Borderland welcome to the one, the only, Pastor Austin Triplett. Austin, welcome to 915 Talk.
Hey, good to be here, man.
Yeah, you know, it's fun to have these conversations each and every weekday afternoon. We have all kinds of people from the community come in talking about all kinds of things. Yesterday we were talking about a theology for landscape design.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting.
I don't know that I've ever thought much about that.
Yeah,
but I do have a bit of a theology of confession. I did just break your table here, like first thing here. I just pulled.
That's okay.
I
Mac
pulled
Daddy
it
will
right
take
out,
care of it.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I'm also feeling slightly jealous that
Okay.
I don't have a nickname.
Oh,
Like Mac Daddy.
a lot of people have that problem. Is Stone Cold Austin already?
Well, I was
that might
thinking. So when I was in high school,
Right.
I tried out for my basketball team.
Okay.
And I got cut. I mean, was not good enough to make the team. But
So you weren't cut. You just didn't make it.
But-
Like if you'd been cut, it would have meant that you'd actually made the team.
yeah, it wasn't good enough to even make the team. So not cut. Yeah, just not good enough to even get on.
So bad
Yeah.
you weren't even
Yeah.
cut. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Fair enough. Sad stories. But what I was trying to say is what I did end up, like out of that experience, I did get the nickname A-Train.
A-Train.
And it lasted for a solid 3 days.
A-Train.
Yeah.
The A-Train triplet.
So maybe we could run with that.
Okay.
Like A-Train, Mac Daddy, and Andy Frecka.
Okay.
And then we've got I don't know, maybe a new Run DMC band or something like that.
Okay. All right. So A-Train is here today. He's the pastor over at Jesus Chapel. A-Train is wearing his Lucha Libre outfit.
Yes.
And we do have the lasers going, the smoke machine.
And he breaks tables as soon as he walks in the room.
I mean,
so.
that was kind of a boss move, walking into the studio and just breaking the table at the beginning of the interview.
Just try to assert my,
Yeah. So when I reached out to you and I said, hey, A-Train, can you come in for 915 Talk? You asked me a question.
Yeah.
You were like, can we be controversial?
Yeah.
Why was that important to you?
Yeah. So I think it's important in contexts specifically like this because of two things. One, I think that what you have here is a unique opportunity to actually talk about things that maybe aren't being talked about in other places, right?
Okay.
Like Sunday morning service is, I think, primarily the goal of preaching the gospel.
Sure.
Like, riling people up and getting controversial about things. I don't know that it's there.
Right.
So my goal on Sundays is I want to be the man who stands behind the biblical text and brings the biblical text to you, trying to apply it to today's day and age. But I kind of want to keep my opinions out of it. Mm-hmm. I really want to make sure that there's a distinction between opinion and thus saith the Lord.
Sure.
And so I feel yet there's still a lot of nuance to how we're thinking about things in the Christian faith in America in 2025, now,
Right.
about to be 2026.
Right.
That formats like this, like a radio show, a talk show, have the opportunity to really wrestle through and talk through in a way that doesn't create controversy on a Sunday morning when the goal there is man, let's get people to see the beauty of Jesus from the Word of God.
Yeah.
Not that controversial topics shouldn't show up, right? If they're in the text, they got to come out.
Right.
But there's some things where I think we have freedom as Christians to wrestle with these things.
Yeah.
And this is I feel like a really good space for that type of thing. And you seem like the type of guy, from my experience with you, that's really good at asking questions, that's wrestling through a thought, and is willing to have the dialogue. And so, that was kind of my question: is, are you okay if it's controversial?
So what I'm hearing you say is you're tired of just preaching on Sundays. You wanna wrestle with some things.
Yeah. What I was really hoping to do is quit my day job and. No. Yeah.
Yeah. But I love that you bring that up. Here at this radio station, we have 20 hours a day of biblical preaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is fantastic. Yeah. But then we have added some talk radio, and this is one of the main programs for talk radio. And I do think that it is important for us to publicly wrestle.
Yeah.
With learning, because as we wrestle with these ideas, it should draw us closer to each other and closer to God.
Yeah, that's good.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
And on this program, not everyone here that comes in is a confessing Christian.
Yeah, I love that.
And we learn from them.
Yeah.
Not everyone is Protestant.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I get more upset emails about having Catholics on than I do anything else, which I find to be mildly amusing.
Yeah.
But you know, we need to learn from each other.
Yeah.
And I do a weekend program here on the radio station just called The Weekend Word. It's
Okay.
early Saturday morning. And I was recording for this weekend today. And I was talking about the three wise men,
Okay.
which first of all, we don't know that there were wise men. And there definitely weren't three of them.
Okay. Yeah.
But the Magi.
Yeah.
But they were probably just pagan astrologers.
Yeah. Magicians.
Yeah.
You know.
And God spoke to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes we need to listen to people around us who don't have yet that relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
And we as Christians know the truth.
Yeah.
His name is Jesus.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we know everything.
I think that's really good. Yeah, and I think in line with that, like dialogue like this is becoming more and more a lost art in our day and age, even in the podcast sphere or the radio talk show sphere.
Right.
It's usually like, let me bring people on who are in my echo chamber or who,
Right.
you know, will go ahead and promote all my preconceived ideas. And then we just kind of rage bait each other until,
Sure.
you know, at the end of the thing, people yelled about a lot of things, but there was no real dialogue about differences, opinions. And so
Right.
I think the ability for Christians to wrestle with controversial topics with one another
Yeah.
for the sake of sharpening, but also for the sake of like, man, we don't have all this figured out right now. We live in a day and age where it's almost like the death of expertise. And so because of that, you have certain people who end up like, we can question everything. And that's good in some senses, right? It's good and right to ask questions and to have dialogue. But then you have other people who come in and all they want to do is be the authority on a topic.
Yeah.
And they don't ever want to have the conversation.
Yeah.
And so I feel like in the age that we're in of the kind of breaking down of dialogue, what you're doing here to like bring people together, have conversations, hear different opinions, even about controversial things that maybe we haven't fully fleshed out our thoughts about yet.
Yeah.
Like, I think that actually is fruitful for Christians because that's happening in our churches, whether we
Right.
realize it or not. And that's happening in our workplaces, with our coworkers. I think that we need to be willing to enter into discussion, express some of the things we feel like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing things this way.
Yeah.
Maybe we should be asking different questions. Or I see something here that's concerning me and I want to talk about it.
Right.
I don't have it fully figured out yet, but it's concerning to me.
Yeah.
Can we enter into a dialogue? Instead, I think what happens is, the social media of it all, you can say a lot of things when somebody won't punch you in the face, right? You can say a lot of things and get away with a lot of things when somebody's not right in front of you.
Yeah, it's funny. There was this epic photo that came out of the White House recently.
Okay.
And it was Donald Trump and the new mayor from New York, Mamdani.
Okay.
And they have been just jabbing at each other for weeks in advance.
Yeah.
And then they met in the Oval Office and they're just best of friends. And
Yeah.
it was funny.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people were disappointed with both of them.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they didn't get into a fight in the Oval Office, but here they are just grinning at each other. And it is a good reminder. The point of me saying that is it's a good reminder that meeting someone in person is very different than online.
Yeah.
And that's a world we live in where very often we're so brave online.
Yeah.
Like the Apostle Paul wrote, he's so strong in his letters, but he's
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
but let's jump into one of the topics.
Yeah.
So you sent me a few of them. One of them you reference young men who claim the church stole their masculinity from them. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So what I think I'm noticing, and this has been a theme for a while, even since like when Mark Driscoll was pretty prominent with Mars Hill, kind of the young restless reformed movement. There was this real push towards like a recapturing of biblical masculinity, and there was this huge promotion of like, man, your churches are built for women, and and it was just like it was very much this like men need to come over and dominate this space again, because apparently we haven't dominated the church space
Enough.
So. Yeah. So what's bizarre to me about what I'm seeing right now, and I think that like even with like the rise of Jordan Peterson and some like the Tate brothers, and those aren't the same people at all, but this concept of like take back your masculinity, and I'm seeing in young men, in particular, men like my generation and below, who feel like they have not been discipled. They feel like they have not been like taught what it means to be a man. And so there seems like there's this rage against the local church for it not discipling them. And then there is, and I'm trying to figure out how to construct this, but there almost seems to be I'll call it a masculine energy. Like we want to fight. We want to fight something. Like give us something to stand up and fight for. And I don't think that's inherently bad. But what ends up happening is they rage against what the church has not done, and then they move into another circle, which is what the church now needs to be. And it seems almost like this form of masculinity that is dominating and fighting and standing up. And so, we just, Charlie Kirk recently passed away. Yeah. And some things that he did were excellent, and some things that he did were controversial, and some things that he did were unhelpful. And all of those things are part of the mixed bag of being human, right?
And particularly being public.
And being public, yeah, exactly. And it seems like a response to his tragic death was, now we need to get louder, more brash, more frustrating, and we need to start to bring truth into the public square in a way that is unapologetic.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like we're talking about two different things here. So I want us to speak into that because we're talking about masculinity.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded of, I did see a Christian comedian once talking about how a lot of Christian worship songs, particularly modern worship songs, are not written for women.
Okay.
And so it's like, I just want to look in your face. I just want to talk to you. And he said, well, a more manly worship song would be like, could we just sit on the couch and not talk? Like just hang out, And so I understand some of that.
Yeah, for sure.
But what is masculinity?
Yeah. And
what is biblical masculinity?
I think that's a great question, right? And so I think that's where a lot of this comes down to, is like, what do we mean when we talk about what it means to be a man? Because it seems clear in Scripture that God has given two genders, male and female, and that male and female are both made in the image of God. They are both inherently worthy of dignity and value. And so we want to affirm those truths, and then we also want to say they're not interchangeable. Like male and female are not interchangeable,
right?
According to Scripture,
right?
So with that being said, what does it mean? What does biblical masculinity really look like?
Right.
And so if we want to start from the beginning of the story, I think that we can look at Adam. And what's problematic about Adam in the beginning of the story is that he actually abdicates responsibility. So we look at Genesis 3, and what's clear in Genesis 3 is that the serpent is speaking to Eve, and Adam, who has been given the responsibility of proclaiming the word of God, don't eat from this tree, from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Adam, who's been given that responsibility, says nothing. He abdicates his responsibility in that garden to be a voice, a life-giving presence.
Wait, are you suggesting it wasn't all Eve's fault?
I am absolutely suggesting it wasn't all Eve's fault. Yeah. And I would say that the Bible, for the rest of the narrative, except for maybe one passage, I think 1 Timothy 2 is the only passage that doesn't blame Adam only. Like the rest of Scripture, it's Adam was the one who sinned. And so I'm not trying to say that women are not, women sin and men sin, and both of us sin, and both of us need a Savior.
See, I thought if it weren't for women, we'd still be in the Garden of Eden. But you're telling me something different.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you something different, man. Yeah. I would say that if it was just my wife there, maybe we'd still be in the Garden of Eden, but I don't know.
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm supposed to say that. She'll pay me later.
Right.
So what I think that we see in the beginning of the story is there's an abdication of responsibility to be a life-giving presence. And so in this, I think there is this level of like defense to stand up for truth that is clear in the biblical story. But then what we see that I think really emphasizes specifically the use of our words, what goes unsaid, and then what goes said. So God pronounces the proto-evangelion, right? It's like this, the first proclamation of the gospel in Genesis 3:15, that by this woman will come an offspring who will crush the serpent's head. So it's the promise that there will be a son who will crush this serpent, and this individual will deliver humanity.
Yeah.
Well, Genesis chapter 4, the first, this is where Eve gets her name. She's no longer woman in Genesis chapter 4. She's been given a name, and that name is actually by Adam. And he says that she is the mother of all living. So Adam's response to what happens in the Garden of Eden and the fall is actually proclamation of the gospel. She will be the mother of the living one, the one who will crush the head of the snake. So he now uses his words to proclaim the good news of the gospel. So we could put it like this, and it's kind of a cheeky way to put it, and I don't know if it's the best way, but it makes sense to me. In the Garden of Eden, the problem was that Adam didn't preach the gospel. And coming out of the Garden of Eden, he starts to take up his role of preaching the gospel. Now, he still fails as a man, as we see in the text, but we see right off the bat, like masculinity means, in some senses, a life-giving presence that proclaims the gospel into our circumstances. So with that, I think we could go a lot of places in the Old Testament, but I'd want to do is like pick up maybe Paul's thoughts in Jesus being the second Adam, Jesus being the true and better Adam. So if Jesus is restoring our humanity, in Jesus is this new humanity that we are invited to now participate in as Christians, then we look to Jesus for our marching orders on what it means to be human. I think women can look to Jesus for what it means to be human. I think men can look to Jesus for what it means to be human. But I also don't think we should ignore that Jesus comes to us as a masculine figure. He's a man. And so what we want to say is, okay, Jesus is fulfilling for us what we should be thinking of when we think of what it means to be a man. And this is what Jesus tells us about himself. He tells us in Matthew 11 that he is gentle and lowly in heart. He also uses his words to bring life all throughout the story. I mean, he is constantly speaking, teaching, asking questions, proclaiming identity over things, even confronting. I think we should pay careful attention to who he's confronting. You know, like I think so many of us get kind of caught up in the, like, well, Jesus was always confronting. And it's like, well, yeah, he was confronting religious elite who were like, can't say that, who were, they were harming the gospel message, and they were uplifting their own status, and they were oppressing people with their message and with their ways. And so Jesus tells us that he's gentle and lowly in heart. And I think that that's really important for us when we think about what masculinity is.
Yeah, that's a fun thing or important thing to drill into, the idea that the true idea of masculinity would be found in Christ, is what you're saying. And I'm remembering the What Would Jesus Do bracelets from the 90s or whenever that was. And
bring them back, man.
Yeah, it was interesting to me with that question, what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
And very often in any situation, it seemed like the response would be, well, Jesus would be nice.
Yeah.
And actually, if you look at Jesus's life, nowhere in Scripture does it say be nice.
Right. Yeah.
It says be kind.
Yeah.
And like you said, he would confront.
Yeah.
And of course, turn over tables at the temple for the money changers. And then you have Revelation chapter 1, where his eyes are fire. There's a sword coming out of his mouth.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, his voice is the sound of many rushing waters. And then he's being compassionate with sinners.
Yeah.
And all of these things. And it's more than we could even talk about in an hour, let alone many hours.
Yeah.
But I love this idea that true masculinity can be found not by watching World Wrestling Federation, but by looking at Christ. Right. And that's kind of an obvious thing, but it is a good reminder.
Yeah.
So with all of that, what I heard you say is, with a lot of what's happening culturally, what's happening with young men in the church is they want to be masculine.
Yeah.
And so what I heard you say is they're becoming brash.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there's some merit to that, right? So Jesus, I mean, one of the most amazing things to me about Jesus is that he is resolute in his convictions. Like, Jesus is not waffling on truth. He's not kind of like, well, yeah, you kind of make a good point there. Maybe I'll need to rethink my opinion. Like, he doesn't ever do that.
Yeah.
But what he does do is he is resolute in his convictions, and yet sinners want to be around him. Mm-hmm. Like they are drawn towards him, and the people who are repulsed by him are what seem to be the more brash, maybe individuals in the crowd. And so, what I think is interesting about Christ, and I mean, there's so many things that are interesting about Christ, but what I think is interesting about this is how do we, as men who want to be masculine, Paul will tell Timothy, I believe in 2 Timothy, to correct your opponents with gentleness. So there is a correction aspect to even the work that we're doing. There is a using our voice for a voice of reason, a voice of wisdom. I think that is all being Christ-like. I think even at times it's calling out stupid ideas. Like, man, that's a dumb thought. Like, and I think Jesus even uses terms like that. He uses foolishness to describe other people's concepts.
My favorite is when he's with the disciples and he says, "How long must I put up with you?"
Yeah. I can relate to those disciples because I feel like Jesus is saying that to me sometimes.
Yeah. So I love this idea. Good reminder, or just this idea that masculinity is found in Christ. Let's look to Him. And the American church seems to be on this interesting journey of trying to understand all of this. And you said at the beginning, it's not like the church has not been masculine enough over the centuries. Yeah. So what would your word of encouragement be to young men who are looking to be discipled and are looking for not just this probably isn't the best way of putting it, but not just the example of Christ, but an example in their own church?
I think look for the man in your church who is, well, let's look to Christ first. Let's start there, and then maybe look for people who embody this. So, like, I would say that when we look at Jesus, his entire mission is to serve, not to be served.
Right.
He gives his life as a ransom for many.
Yeah.
And the Bible will pick up on that as, like, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church, giving himself up for her. And so I think that there is this level of this where it's like, man, where do I see men regularly sacrificing their desires for the good of those around them? Where do I see men regularly giving up for others? And I think we want to be careful with that, right? We're not asking for doormat men. We're not asking for that. Again, Jesus, resolute in his convictions, he goes to the cross willingly, not accidentally.
Sure.
And yet at the same time, there is this concept that he's inviting us to take up our cross and to follow him, to deny ourselves, and to actually seek the kingdom of God above our own desires. And I think that at times, the way that this plays out for us is, well, I'm seeking the kingdom of God above my own desires, and that's why I'm speaking so strongly about these things. It's like, well, actually, it does not. There is times where boldness is necessary, but it doesn't take a lot of work to be a jerk. Like, it's actually not that difficult to be a jerk. And Jesus is not asking us to go out there and be jerks. Like, Jesus is asking us to carry the message of the kingdom and a king who carries a cross.
Right.
And so I think that we want to look for men who are resolute in their convictions. At the same time, I think we want to look for men who are dying to themselves and giving up for those around us for a vision for masculinity.
Right. I love what you said. Just what I heard you say is look for a man who's taking on responsibility.
Yeah.
And not just looking for position.
Yeah.
And that's a conversation I've had even with my own sons.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, how do I know I'm an adult?
Yeah.
When you're taking on more responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, I know we're about to go to traffic here in a minute, but I'd love to hear from you, just like your perspective as a man who's been raising sons. Like, how are you discipling them into masculinity?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're just joining us, we're with A-Train, a.k.a. Pastor Austin Triplett. He's from Jesus Chapel here in El Paso. We're just talking about life, really, and what our response should be as the church. And we've been talking about Christian masculinity. But right now we do have Charlie One on the phone. Charlie One, what are you seeing out on the roads this afternoon? Charlie 1, this afternoon we have Pastor Austin Triplett of Jesus Chapel with us. Jesus Chapel is over on the west side of El Paso. It's kind of the fancy part of town, as you know. But people on the west side of El Paso, I know, will drive any distance for a good bowl of menudo. Where would you recommend that they drive? Thank you, Charlie 1. We'll talk soon. And we're back with A-Train, a.k.a. Pastor Austin Triplett of Jesus Chapel here in El Paso. We've been talking about masculinity in the church, this journey that we're all on to not only understand who we are, but how we can better represent Christ to the world.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
A-Train. I know you wanted to talk about my experience, and we'll talk about that
All right.
some other time.
Sounds good.
You give me a list, and the time's flying by.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep rolling.
Yeah. So tell me what makes a church successful.
Yeah. I think this
because you made that a topic, so I think you know the answer.
Yeah. What makes a church successful? So I think that when we look at what makes a church successful, we have in the church today taken on business pragmatics to define what makes Christianity successful.
Okay.
Let's go back to, we're having conversations about Jesus and how he defines things, right? Well, Jesus starts out I would say his pinnacle Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5. Blessed are the poor in spirit.
Right.
And then he goes through this long list of things that we would not consider successful things. Sure. And so I'll use an example of this. I grew up in a small church with really honestly, because of location and things like that, they were never going to be the next mega church. It was just not on their horizon. Right. Pastor was in so many ways a godly man and a gifted man, but his ability to preach sermons that could put people to sleep was profound. And this man had a wealth of biblical knowledge, and if you were sitting across a table from him, it was one of the most incredible things in the world. But sitting in the sermon, it just didn't always seem to catch. But one of the things that this man was faithful. He faithfully pursued people in his congregation. He faithfully pursued the preaching of the word. And so when I think about what makes a church successful, I think back to that experience. And I think many people grew frustrated with maybe a lack of numerical growth and missed spiritual, we'll call them markers of success.
Okay.
One of those was the love that existed within that congregation. This church just loved people. I remember there was one story where a young man had actually broken into the church. He was a young kid, probably 18, 19 years old, breaks into the church, and there was a gumball machine. And then he broke the gumball machine and got gumballs out of this gumball machine. And
wait, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I missed something. The church had a gumball machine?
The church had a gumball machine, which is what makes a church successful, just in case you're wondering. That's where the story goes. Yeah.
So, did you have to pay for the gumballs?
You did.
Okay.
25 cents.
25
a gumball.
cents.
Yeah. So just a way to...
The church was making bank.
Yeah. Tried to teach kids how to tithes and offerings, that type of stuff. Yeah. Business pragmatics, like I said.
Okay. So back to your story.
So this kid...
there's a church with a gumball machine.
Yeah.
There's great love in the church.
Yeah. Great love in the church. This young kid breaks in and ends up breaking the gumball machine. And the pastor shows up one day, notices the door's broken, walks inside, and the kid's just sleeping. He had nowhere to go for the night. He was really just looking for a place to stay. And so instead of pressing charges on this kid, that pastor in that church took it
hold
upon
on.
themselves.
He broke into the church.
broke into the church.
And then broke the gumball machine.
And then broke the gumball machine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's way more egregious than just breaking the gumball machine.
For sure. Yeah. It was just definitely not just the gumball machine. It was the church. He broke in and took a nap on the couch. And instead of calling... hey, let's call the cops. Let's get this. The pastor like decided, hey, how can we actually help this individual who doesn't seem to have a place to sleep?
Right.
And like, whether that's the right thing or not, I'm not necessarily trying to determine like that was the right thing to do. Like, I'm not saying churches that would have called the cops on somebody who broke in are wrong. That's not what makes a successful church. But what was so clear about this pastor was that he actually loved people to the point of saying, like, I'm going to try to walk with them in their worst moments. And that culture of trying to walk with people in their worst moments existed throughout the church. And people just did that. Like,
Right.
man, grandparents are dying. People on the street are in need of a home or a place to stay. We have, young high school students who have professed faith in the past but are walking slippery slopes. We're not ostracizing them. We're trying to continue to come around them and continue to support them and continue to point them to Jesus. And what I see in that church is, I think about Jesus in, I believe it's John chapter 13. Jesus, at the end of kind of his ministry, it says that he looks and he loves, seeing his own, he loved them to the end. Seeing his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And then it says, knowing that he had come from the Father and was going back to the Father, he got down and washed their feet.
Yeah.
Like, there was this service about him, knowing his position as the second person of the Trinity, knowing his position as being a part of the Godhead, he yet humbles himself to wash feet.
Yeah.
And loves his own until the end. What is the end in Jesus' context? He pours out his life for them. And so I see those two things, and I think that what makes a successful church is, are we, in the way that we do our ministry, are we promoting this Christ who loves until the end? Or are we promoting numbers and metrics and buildings? And not that those things are wrong or inherently bad. So I think that we don't want to say like, oh, inherently, small churches with faithful pastors are successful and large churches are now unsuccessful. We don't want to say that.
Yeah.
But I think we want to say that, what do we define maturity like in that church? Does it look like love for others? Does it primarily constitute of doing the work of the ministry, doing the business of the ministry?
Right.
So you look at, like, I'm sorry, I'm rambling here, so feel free to cut me off if you need to. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I need to.
Great. Cut me off. Yeah,
I'm
do
just
it.
kidding.
Yeah.
No, it is interesting. What I kind of also picked up from your story about this church that has this young man break in, falls asleep on a couch. The church looks to serve him in that situation.
Yeah.
Is they weren't moving so quickly towards quote unquote success.
Yeah.
That they miss the context of the person
Yeah.
who is reaching out to them in a place of need.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times when we become corporate, we can say, well, if a homeless person comes to the church,
Yeah.
this is how we handle it.
Yep.
And every person who walks into the church has a different need. And how can we slow down for a minute and ask for the wisdom of God for that person? Which in some cases might be actually to call the police.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
To be fair, but in each situation, God's wisdom, just welcoming that and slowing down for a minute to really meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
So I love that idea. And, churches of all sizes are great, but I think it is a good challenge for larger churches to be thinking about how they can really have trained, mature believers who will take that time particularly with new people coming into the church.
Yeah.
So I love this idea. And so you were a missionary in India.
Yeah.
Now you're a pastor in America.
Yeah.
How has your experience overseas created a prism, perhaps, that you see the American church through?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question. One, I would say that it's done a couple things.
Hey, Train, I just want to say something.
Yeah.
All my questions are good.
They are good. I've not had a bad one yet. If one comes up, I'll let you know. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Please do.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
This is like that part in, I believe it's in Deuteronomy, where it's like, and Moses was the most humble man that had ever lived. It's like that's what just happened here.
Right.
So let me think about your question again. How has living in India kind of shaped the way that I see the American church?
Yes.
So I'll look at this through two different lenses. One is how it has positively shaped me, meaning like the things that I now love about the American church that maybe I wouldn't have before. And two will be some of the things that I would say like it's helped me to see differently, and maybe with more of a critical eye.
Sure.
So the things I love how influential the American church has been in sending missionaries.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like one thing that we just should not miss is how much, sometimes this can be for the worse, but I think more often than not it's for the better. Like we have sent so many people to the work of mission, like to take the gospel to the nations. And I think even here in the States, like you look at a place like El Paso, where there's a lot of churches here, and there's a lot of aid here as well. There's a lot of like the church itself is doing things for the community. And so I would think like maybe even broadening that out, not just American, but Western Christianity in and of itself. Like Western Christianity has overall, even I don't want to ignore that there's been like really dark points in our history. Yet at the same time, Christians have been a force for good in the world in a significant way. And I don't want to ignore that, and I don't want to miss that.
I love that you said that, and I think it is important to understand that it's so easy to criticize the church.
Yeah.
And I believe that each nation has some special giftings that we can learn from.
Yeah.
And learn from the church from those nations. You know, you think of a country like Korea and their commitment to prayer, for example.
Yeah.
We can learn from that. The Brazilian church is full of joy and worship, and I'm obviously making some generalizations, but we can always learn something. But one thing that is true, and I absolutely believe, is the American church is incredibly generous.
Yeah.
And I know it's easy to stand up and say, well, we should all be giving more, and that's probably true. Probably true.
Yeah.
But it overall is an incredibly generous church. And one of the ways that is manifested is by sending out so many missionaries to the world.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. And I think that that's something we don't want to miss is the generosity piece of American Christianity. And so, I don't want to, my overall tendency is to see maybe with more of a critical eye. And so I have to really rein that in at times.
That's a unique trait.
Well, it can be.
One thing that's unique is I'm critical.
One thing that's unique about me is I'm really good at telling you where your flaws are. So marriage has been real helpful. So I say all that to say, like, I always want to be trying to think through, okay, if I'm going to point my finger at something, how am I actually willing to get my hands dirty in helping it? I had an experience. A lot of my friends that grew up in like high school with me are no longer Christians. And I'll just be honest, like they deconstructed their faith and they've left the faith, and that's been really a struggle for me. I was in that boat with them for a while, where we would go out to dinner and we would just take whatever pot shots at the church we could. You know, it was just like, let's spend the night criticizing the church. And I walked away from one of those dinners, and I felt like the Lord spoke really clearly to me, like, if you're going to criticize my bride, you better be willing to get your hands dirty.
Wow.
And that's been super formative for me. I would say that was maybe one of the first moments that I started sensing the Lord calling me to pastoral ministry, was like, if you're gonna have some things to say about how we can do this better, you better be willing to get messy. And with that, I think that what I'm about to say are not things that I'm like, let me just point fingers and then try to run away from them. Because I think that there's at the heart some good things here. Like one of the things that I feel like I'm wrestling with right now with the American church is maybe our adulterous relationship to politics.
Oh.
And
that was not me. That was Pastor Austin Triplett.
Just trying to use biblical language. Hosea. We could go further if we wanted to, but I think that you guys can email me at. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know Andy's email to give to you. So, But so, and this happens in both parties, in both sides. This is not an explicitly like right wing or left wing thing. But I think what we want to do often is, for the sake of influence and power, the church marries itself to a political party and then actually removes its ability to be a prophetic voice in that party. And so what happens is we end up getting so caught in one place or the other, and we're so careful not to criticize because we think, well, I've heard this over and over again. It's the lesser of two evils type of thing, and so you just got to choose the lesser of two evils. And I think there's some merit to that in some senses. But what I think ends up happening is our churches become more about political allegiance and less about Christological allegiance. So we become more married to a party, and that becomes what unites us, versus married to Christ, and that becomes what unites us. And I think that this is natural in some ways, right? So let's just take justice, for instance. Jesus tells us to be a people of justice. The book of Isaiah seems to be all about God's people being a people of justice. Micah 6:8, love justice, seek justice. This is such a clear command in Scripture, and I think that we don't always know how to do that. We don't know how to enact justice. And so the easiest way we can find is political activity. And what's the easiest application? Vote this direction. But then what happens is we end up pushing and promoting voting, and I'm not against voting. That's not what I'm saying here.
I think everyone heard you say don't vote.
Yeah, that's what I hope they heard. Some might. Yeah, we push and promote, go vote this direction, and then we feel like we've done our Christian duty when there are real people in front of us who could benefit from our embodiment, but we're not actually going to them and seeking the harder application of what does it look like to really do justice? What does that look like in El Paso? What does it look like to really be a people of justice here versus go vote for this party or in this direction? And I think that that's kind of where I'm wrestling a bit. And I don't have all the answers to this other than I think that we just have to be really careful as a people of God to recognize that we are the people of God. Our nation is not the people of God. And so with that, we do want to hold our nation to some standards that we believe will help humanity thrive and flourish. At the same time, we want to be really, really careful that we don't start to make direct correlations to what the Bible would say is the people of God's responsibility, and we're trying to make our nation's responsibility. And the Bible would say it's the people of God's identity, and we're trying to make it our nation's identity. And so that's kind of my 30,000-foot view there.
Right. So I think one of the key phrases I heard you say, and please correct me if I misspeak here, but it's something along the lines of what I heard you say is the American church has aligned itself to a political party to the point where it's lost its prophetic voice.
Yeah.
Okay. If we have the prophetic voice, what do we need to say?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think right now some things we really need to say, and I'll go both ways with this, right? I think if you are a Christian who tends to line up more with the left, I think you need to be really adamant about calling out the left about its gender identity politics and some of the issues with gender identity. I think that those are real problematic issues. The erosion of the valuing of the family and the valuing of parental supervision in children's lives. I think you need to be real adamant about some of that. On the other side, and there's more to this, right? So I don't want to be these are the only issues, but and I think you need to be really pretty adamant against abortion. You need to stand against abortion. And I would say on the right side, I am becoming increasingly more and more discouraged at how little people are speaking out against the current messaging about immigrants. Whether or not people should cross our border is a different conversation, but they are, and how we treat them and speak about them now that they are is very important. I would say that our White House, specifically on the right, they have And, people can come talk to me about this. I would love to understand more. Like, if you're listening to this and you have some ideas of how we can be thinking better about this, please, I would love to have you come talk to me. My email is austin@jesuschapelep.com. I would love to have a conversation about this. But it seems like there is a dehumanizing of immigrants that the Bible would say is actually sinful. And so whether or not, like, what does it look like to really care for the immigrants, I think is a bigger question that I don't have the answer to, that I really want to try to figure out the answer to. But it certainly doesn't start with dehumanizing them and racially profiling them. And I think that we need to be pretty adamant that that's wrong, and the way that we're handling that is wrong.
Yeah. So what's interesting in what you're saying is you start off by saying if you identify as being a follower of Christ and you're on the liberal side or left side, then you need to call out these things. If you call yourself a follower of Christ and you're more right leaning, let's talk about this. One thing that I find interesting is when I go out for a walk in the evening, and I see someone wearing a medical mask, and they're walking by themselves through the park, I could probably tell you their view on immigration, abortion. I could tell you who they voted for. And it's so interesting that there's so little nuance where if I follow one party, then I have to agree with every part of that party's platform. And so we're not really having conversations anymore. We're just fighting one camp against the other rather than really trying to understand ideas. So that's just an interesting observation.
Well, and I would say that, like, what that is evidence of is this call for allegiance that is unhealthy. Like this call to be allegiant, and I think that this is starting to break apart a bit. I'm starting to see more diversity in viewpoints, but I think even that thought, right, of like, I see this person walking and I can pretty much make some general assumptions.
Judgments,
yeah. And, I see someone with an American flag on their shirt. I can pretty much make some assumptions, which is kind of crazy to think about.
That's funny.
But at the same time, like, what I want to be able to say is that, like, in those conversations, if there is a political party that's calling for my utter allegiance without question, then it is actually competing for my attention with Christ.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I think that we need to, I'm not an advocate of being apolitical. Like, I think we need to be involved. We have that benefit. I would look at a theology of exile being that we should seek the good of the land that's here, for in its welfare you'll find your welfare. Like, we deeply desire the good of El Paso, and we want to be involved in that. At the same time, I think that we want to be really careful to not give our allegiance to El Paso, to not give our allegiance to a party. And there is a call and a cry to give your allegiance to the party, give your allegiance to the land. And we're actually supposed to be sojourners in this land for the glory of God, citizens of heaven, finding ourselves as citizens here in El Paso, citizens here in the United States. We have an ability to use that citizenship for the glory of God and for the good of others, but we want to be really careful to not make that our primary identity, make that allegiance to a particular party our primary identity. And that's what I think that I'm seeing as just the lack of nuance is we find ourselves in that place where we've given our allegiance to something. So.
Yeah. It's a big subject. I think it's worth absolutely drilling into. And, this program isn't here to give all the answers. It's more to ask questions. And I do hope that the result of this kind of conversation is the listener is saying, okay, hold on. Maybe there is this one part of my life where I've given allegiance to and above Christ. And I do hope that it creates that wrestling in all of our minds. I think it's an easy thing to listen to a Christian teaching and just sit there and say, well, I agree with that, I don't agree with that, and kind of make a checklist as we're listening to the teaching. But really what we need to be saying whenever we're listening to anything like this is, God, what are you trying to speak to me?
Yeah.
And so love that. A-Train.
Yeah.
El Paso, you came here because of your wife.
Yeah.
But now El Paso's your home.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this program, it says the world is looking at El Paso. What will we say to the world? And the reason it says that is because what I found when I moved to El Paso is very often it's national correspondents telling our story to the world.
Yeah.
Rather than us
Yeah.
telling our own story. So now that you call El Paso home, what is one thing you would want the world to know about this city?
What is one thing I'd want the world to know about this city? I think that's really great. There's another great question, man. Yeah, I think that I would want the world to know that El Paso actually likes you. And what I mean by that is, like, El Paso has been one of those places that, like, I have come and people have welcomed me. Like, there's a hospitality about this city. And I know that there's even some difficulty in making friends in El Paso, but everybody seems willing to help you out in El Paso. And there's a community, a familial aspect to this city that is really profound and really strong. And like, I would want the world to see that in some senses and to know that about us. I'd also want the world to know that we, even though we may complain about our city, really love it. Like, don't you complain about it. We can complain about it because we're here, but you're not allowed to. We love this place. And so with that, I would say that, man, there has never been a place where I have lived in the world where I have felt like this is my home. And the people here actually want me here.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Super cool. Okay, in the minute we have left, if you could pray one prayer for El Paso, what would that prayer be?
My prayer for El Paso would be that people would see how beautiful Jesus really is. I think that there's a lot of people who associate with religious activity but have missed the beauty of Christ. And I would just love to see a revival of people understanding how important Jesus really is for them and how good the gospel really is and what that actually means for them in their day-to-day lives, that it changes every aspect of their life. Not just every aspect of their life, but even their existence and their meaning, their purpose, far greater than an activity on Sunday. And
Love it.
Yeah.
A-Train, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you, Andy. It's great to be here, man.
We've been with Pastor Austin Triplett of Jesus Chapel here in El Paso. As we always say, let's learn to love our city, love our neighbors, and give God all the glory. This has been 915 Talk. You have been listening to 915 Talk, a production of Desert Voice Media. In order to listen to previous editions of 915 Talk, just visit desertvoice.media. Let's learn together to love our city, love our neighbors, and give God all the glory.